You ever get blindsided so hard by the system that you question if reality itself has a sense of humor? That's exactly how my morning started. The kind of day you wouldn't believe unless you lived it. 1 minute, I'm just trying to get to work like anybody else, maybe a little more tired than usual, wearing my regular clothes instead of the judge's robes, carrying a briefcase stacked with case files. Next thing I know, there's Officer Martinez blocking my way, looking me up and down like I just crawled out of the gutter, calls me a filthy animal, tells me I belong in a cage. And before I can even process the insult, his hand cracks across my face, my briefcase flies, papers everywhere. Suddenly I'm in handcuffs, slammed up against the stone, surrounded by officers laughing. And recording like this is some kind of sideshow. 20 feet from my own courtroom, getting brutalized by the very people sworn to protect it. Yeah, that happened. Inside, Martinez is already working the script, talking to the judge, spinning his story about how he bravely stopped a suspicious individual from breaking into the courthouse. He says I was acting erratic, refused to show ID. Got aggressive. Judge Harrison, filling in today, just nods along. Two other officers, Rodriguez and Thompson, back him up like backup singers, repeating the same old song. Same script, different day. She was carrying stolen documents, dressed inappropriately, probably some kind of fraudster. Martinez even claims I got physically combative, so he had to use minimum force. My jaw is throbbing, but I'm sitting there, cuffed at the defendant's table, looking up at my own name on the wall, the Honorable Judge K. Williams presiding. Joke, except nobody's laughing. The prosecutor chimes in, calling for charges, trespassing, resisting arrest, assault on a police officer. Says I'm trying to play the victim card, frame it as discrimination. Martinez puts on his best performance, talks about how people like me always claim to be important, judges, senators, whatever, to get out of trouble. The gallery, mostly courthouse staff, nods along. They've heard it before. Maybe they even believe it. Martinez keeps digging the hole deeper. He shows partial phone footage that starts after his assault, says his body cam malfunctioned. How convenient, right? I don't say a word. Not yet. I just sit there, hands folded, watching the lies pile up. But inside, I'm taking notes, counting every fabrication, because I know something nobody else in that room does. The story isn't over. Not by a long shot. Finally, Judge Harrison calls for my statement, thinking it's a formality, just a last gasp before he throws the book at me. I stand, slow and steady. Let the room see the bruise on my cheek, the handcuffs, the torn dignity. Thank you, Your Honor, I say, making sure every word lands like a pebble in a still pond. I start breaking down the lies, calmly, methodically, walking the judge and everyone else through where I was, what I was doing, how the law itself backs me up. I reference Supreme Court rulings. Point out that I was walking on a public sidewalk, approaching the main entrance. I ask for preservation of all surveillance footage from every angle, every body cam, every cell phone. You should have seen the look on Martinez's face when he realized he forgot about the courthouse security cameras. Then I drop the hammer. I start pulling out credentials, judicial ID, building access card, parking pass, right there at the evidence table. The bailiff, Henderson, goes white as a sheet. He's seen me every day for 3 years, but didn't recognize me in street clothes. Judge Harrison gets shaky. Martinez starts sweating through his uniform. That's when I say, clear as day, I believe there's been a significant misunderstanding about who exactly Officer Martinez assaulted this morning. And just to drive it home, I open my leather wallet and show the gold judicial seal. Court recesses in a panic. I end up in a holding room, breathing slow, focusing, because I know what's coming next. Henderson brings me my robes and gavel, the one engraved from my swearing in. I make a quick call to Chief Judge Carter, tell her to lock down every shred of surveillance, pull every case Martinez ever touched. Margaret, I tell her, the dangerous criminal Martinez testified about, that was me, on my way to work. He called me a filthy animal and told me I belonged in a cage. You could hear a pin drop on the other end of the line. 15 minutes later, I walk back into that courtroom, black robes on, gold trim glinting under the lights. Henderson announces me properly, the Honorable Judge Kesha Williams presiding. Martinez goes pale. Harrison tries to get out of the way. Everyone else sits up, realizing they just watched the system try to eat itself alive. I look straight at Martinez and repeat his own words back to him. About people like me, about learning my place, about actions having consequences. I pull up security footage. On my tablet, every angle, every slur, every moment of violence, all caught on tape. Martinez's own body cam even auto-uploaded its backup, catching him bragging. Time to teach another lesson. Rodriguez and Thompson's mics pick up their laughter, their ugly words, just more nails in the coffin. Then I lay out the receipts. 23 years on the bench, Harvard Law, 47 successful prosecutions of abusive cops, more than 15,000 cases presided over. I start reading from Martinez's record, 47 formal complaints, dozens of dismissed cases, $2.3 million paid out in settlements by the county. Almost all of it brushed under the rug until now. I show charts. 87% of his arrests were people of color, 40% dismissed for misconduct or lack of evidence. The whole courtroom is dead silent. His own attorney just shakes his head. I remind him of the oath he took, to serve impartially, to uphold the Constitution, not to wield power like a weapon. But today, the system he counted on to protect him just gave him up because he picked the wrong person to brutalize. He picked the one person with the power to expose everything. I sentence him to the maximum allowed by law, 25 years. No parole, pending federal charges. I order a sweeping investigation into every case he touched, every victim silenced, every complaint dismissed. And the crazy part? The story doesn't end there. 6 months later, the whole department is flipped upside down. 12 officers fired, for supervisors indicted, hundreds of tainted cases reopened, millions paid out to the real victims. The courthouse is renamed in my honor. My story goes viral. Millions watch, millions comment, demanding justice everywhere. People who never dared to speak up start coming forward. Training programs. Change. That young law clerk who watched it all. She joins the ACLU, fighting for justice in her own way. And Martinez? He spends his days in federal prison, powerless, finally understanding what it feels like to be on the wrong side of the badge. All because he thought he knew his place, and mine. But justice, see, justice doesn't care about uniforms or titles. Sometimes she wears a robe. Sometimes she carries a gavel. And sometimes, when the moment is right, justice hits back. So, tell me, after everything you just heard, do you still believe power always wins? Drop your thoughts below, share your own stories, and let's talk about what justice really looks like. Because maybe, just maybe, the next story will be yours. Maybe you're thinking, well, that's it, right? Justice lands. Bad cop goes down, system resets, roll credits. But you ever notice how, in real life, stories don't end as neat as in the movies? The truth is, that verdict was just the start of a whole new storm. Because once a case like that explodes, nothing stays hidden for long. After Martinez's sentencing, it was like the courthouse flipped upside down. Every hallway buzzed with whispers, people who'd worked here for years suddenly re-examining their own memories, their own choices. Some of them looked at me different, yeah, with respect, but also a kind of fear, like if justice could turn on. Martinez, maybe it could come for anybody who played along or kept quiet. A few folks who used to smile at him every morning now couldn't meet my eye at all. That's how fast the wind can change. And the fallout, man, it was wild. The county's phones lit up with calls from old defendants, civil rights attorneys, even reporters from networks I'd never heard of, all asking for files, tapes, transcripts. The Justice Department set up a task force in town. News vans parked outside the courthouse for weeks, chasing every rumor about corrupt cops and ghosted complaints. Turns out, Martinez's career was just the tip of a rotten iceberg. That sweep I ordered? It uncovered everything. Lost evidence, shredded complaints, people locked up for years on nothing but his word. The numbers were staggering. They pulled every single arrest he'd ever made, cross-checked statements, called in witnesses, flipped open old case files. Some folks had been waiting over a decade for anyone to listen. One woman, Rosa Delgado. Yeah, the grandmother Martinez roughed up back in '09, finally got her day in court. She sat in the front row, tears running down her cheeks, holding the dismissal order Judge Carter signed herself. I'll never forget that. But the changes didn't stop with just Martinez's victims. The department got put under federal oversight. Body cams became ironclad law, no more technical malfunctions. They brought in new leadership, people who actually understood what equal protection under the law means. Training sessions, oversight boards, whistleblower hotlines, you name it. It was painful, messy, public, but for once, it felt like something real was shifting, like maybe the old lies weren't going to cut it anymore. As for me, well, you'd think after 23 years on the bench I'd seen it all, but nothing prepares you for being the headline, the example, the proof that even a judge isn't safe from the kind of hate that hides in a badge. But you know what? Walking back into that courthouse after everything went down, it felt different. Yeah, there were new scars, inside and out, but there was also this sense of purpose, like I was carrying not just my own dignity, but the dignity of everyone who ever thought about staying quiet instead of speaking up. And funny thing, people started coming up to me. Secretaries, court reporters, even a couple of rookie officers. Some apologized for not doing more, others just wanted to thank me for not letting Martinez get away with it. One young bailiff, barely out of training, told me he'd reported a senior officer for brutality the week after the verdict. I figured, he said, if the judge could take on the whole system and win, maybe I could do the right thing too. That meant more than any award or plaque ever could. Martinez? Last I heard, he was still locked up, trying to keep his head down. Word is, the same system that protected him for years now couldn't be bothered to lift a finger. That's how it goes. Power protects itself until the day it doesn't, and then you're on your own. All those years thinking he knew his place in the world, and mine, turned out he didn't know a damn thing. But the story doesn't end with him in prison, or me in the judge's chair. 6 months later, the community felt different, bolder, maybe a little less afraid. I saw it in the way people held their heads up walking into court, the way defense attorneys started pushing harder, even the way jurors listened more closely. Maybe justice isn't a lightning bolt. Maybe it's a slow storm that changes the air after it passes through. Every once in a while, I still get letters, folks from other cities, other states, telling me about their own battles with corrupt cops, racist judges, broken systems. Some ask for advice, some just want to say thank you for showing it's possible to fight back. And that law clerk, the one who sat in the back, scribbling notes, eyes wide with disbelief. She ended up working for the ACLU, fighting for justice in places I'll probably never see. That's what keeps me going. So, I gotta ask, do you believe justice is real, or is it just a story we tell ourselves to feel better? Have you ever seen the system turn on itself, or stood up when everyone else sat down? Tell me your story in the comments. Share this with someone who needs to know power doesn't always win. And if you ever find yourself face to face with someone like Martinez, remember, sometimes justice wears a robe. Sometimes justice carries a gavel. And sometimes justice looks like you. What would you do if it was your turn? Don't just watch, speak up. Hit like, subscribe, and let's keep the fight alive. Your voice might be the one that finally tips the scales.